Is it working?
Yeah, he said tell him he's gonna need to really project because when you were there, it was faint.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you everybody for covering it, for covering the story today. You know, I'm from Texas, so it's a cold, rainy day, and to see so many lawmakers behind us, bipartisan Democrats and Republicans, just shows the commitment to this issue. You know, right now we've had 14 Border Patrol agent, CBP, Customs and Border Patrol agents that have lost their lives due to suicide. And so I'd like to take a brief moment to just honor them. So we'll take a moment of silence for them. These agents, 3 of them, which are right here, are public information, but 11 of them are not. And part of today is to highlight these aren't statistics, these aren't numbers on a paper. These are real people impacted by, you know, their families have been turned upside down. And while in Washington there's a lot of division that divides us, and policy often drives us in a lot of different directions, there's a lot of things that should unite us. You know, I have 6 children. Birth, you know, life should unite us, and death should unite us. The fact that we have 14 agents that have committed suicide is a problem. And I look at it as it's this body that needs to solve that problem. And we need to do it in a manner that brings us all together. So I'm proud of every one of these members of Congress that have come out today. I'm grateful for Brandon Judd, the president of the Border Patrol Union, to speak as well. Yeah, I spent 20 years in the military. And I spent 5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I saw during the height of Afghanistan in particular, a lot of DOD suicides. And one of the things that stopped that was putting effort. Congress actually came together and they passed some legislation that created a task force that included DOD and outside organizations to specifically address this. So I put together a piece of legislation. It's called the TAPS Act. Taking action to prevent suicides. We've already got several members on it. I'll circulate it. We'll drop it later this week, but I'll circulate it as well. The goal is this. The goal is to bring this body together to solve real problems for real people in a manner that is productive. There's so much division in this place. And part of that is we've already done some things. I sit on the Appropriations Committee. My good friend Henry Cuellar sits on the Appropriations. Many of us are appropriators. We've appropriated $23 million for that, but that's not enough. We have to take it a step further. The last thing I want to share before turning it over to my good friend Henry Cuellar and throughout the other members is Uvalde is in my district. The Uvalde shooting happened about 6 months ago. One of the stories that didn't really come out from that was there was a Border Patrol agent that was deployed to Uvalde from a different sector that responded to that crisis. He went into the room and he got to see all those graphic babies and was surrounded by all this death. And he has had to deal with that every single day from that point on. And this agent is still working. This agent is still doing his job. But these things that they are seeing, what they've been exposed to, 100% has an impact on you. I go back to it. It reminds me of my time in the military. These warlike situations are just, they leave an everlasting impact on you. And we're about to go into Christmas. The holidays is usually when the suicides spike through. So we wanted to take a moment and come up with real solutions as both Democrats and Republicans, as well as working with the union and others to solve this. I want to stop there and I want to turn it over to my good friend Henry Cuellar, who is my neighbor to the south. Between the two of us, we represent 50% of the southern border. We work together. We know this issue firsthand. And thank you, Henry. He predicted it was going to be rainy and cold. So thank you, Henry, for doing this.
Notice we do have red and blue, but today it's all of us working together. I want to thank my good friend Tony Gonzalez, who's taken a lead on this, and I certainly look forward to working with them and with all the colleagues. And as I told Brendan, border security is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. It is a issue that affects all Americans. I live on the border. I don't just go visit the border. I actually live there. I lived all my life on the border. So it is something that I understand, along with our friends here. Certainly the men and women in green, the men and women in blue, the other folks. I see them at church. Our kids go to school. See them at the grocery stores. So part of our communities, we need to do everything that we need to do to help them. As my good friend Tony said a few minutes ago, 14 suicides just this in CBP just this year. And again, it's probably it's more than almost any other year that we've had. But unfortunately, this is not a new issue. Between 2007, that is when CBP started taking numbers, tracking suicides, on November 30th of 2022, there's been 149 suicides within the agency. This has prompted members of Congress, like we're doing here today, to not only put resources, but also CBP to get mental health experts across the nation. And again, it's something that we've been working on with the members. I know we got Susie and my good friend Tony. I sit as the vice chair of the Homeland Appropriations, where we added $23 million in FY22, which is last year. And in this year, in the current proposal in Homeland, we added another $23 million that would help us address the behavioral health challenges within CBP. In addition to that, I certainly want to work with Tony and with the other members to make sure that we introduce and pass the legislation. But in the Homeland Appropriations, we'll also put very specific language along with the $23 million. That is, number one, develop a process to ensure that employees who utilize CBP behavioral health services are not adversely impacted solely because they self-identified a need for behavioral health counseling and seek behavioral health assistance. That is important because a lot of times law enforcement doesn't, you might have a law enforcement officer that's afraid that they might get a low mark on their record because they're asking for help. So that part is going to be very important where law enforcement is not afraid to go ask for help. We also have put in language to increase the number of local behavioral health professionals that have experience providing psychological support services to law enforcement personnel. If the federal government doesn't have those experts, then they need to work with local communities to make sure that they get that assistance also. Number three, create a behavioral health curriculum for employees at the beginning of their CBP career to provide resources early and instill the importance of mental health. Again, create periodic management training on crisis intervention to make sure that management can work with the men and women as they need that type of help. And again, improve the existing peer support program and develop a voluntary alcohol treatment program. And again, we're asking that once we pass the omnibus appropriation bill, that within 30 days we will get input from CBP to make sure that we provide that. So money has been put in from last year. We'll put in more money. Language has been put in, but I'm certainly looking forward to work with my good friend Tony Gonzalez and this bipartisan group to make sure that we pass legislation to keep supporting our men and women in green and the men and women in blue also. Thank you so much.
Brandon, Judge. Good to be with you here today. It's very rare that I get to stand with a group of bipartisan. It's really nice to be able to do that. I'm grateful to be here. I want to talk about some of the things that Congressman said. Until we take out the fear of law enforcement coming forward and talking about their mental health issues, they're never going to do it. Right now, I'm going to walk you through the process. If a Border Patrol agent or a CBP officer right now don't want to come to the agency and let them know because I'm going to lose pay, I'm going to lose my law enforcement authority, and everybody is going to know what's going on. So Congressman Cuellar outlined a lot of the things that can take place that's going to destigmatize this fear. I'm sorry, destigmatize, but take away the fear of these officers and agents coming to the agency. And if we can do that, I believe we can absolutely cut down on the number of suicides we have. Over 140 suicides since 2007. 14 this year, 2009, 14 as well. That's our high water mark. We've got to cut this back. Not just to preserve the family unit, not just to save lives, but also because this is a force intervention. We have to be able to have our officers on the front line, our agents on the front line, in order to protect the American people. I think that's what we all want. I think that's what everybody wants here. To save lives and as well as to protect the American people from any threats that might come across our southwest border and our border. With that, I'll turn over to Congressman Gonzalez. Thank you for being here.
Buenos días. I'm Mayra Flores, a county representative of Texas 34. I'm a wife of a Border Patrol agent. And it is an honor standing here today on behalf of all those who can't speak out for themselves, our heroes, our Border Patrol agents. Abandoned. Those are the exact words so many Border Patrol agents have talked to me about. They feel abandoned by this administration. Abandoned. This shouldn't be political. This shouldn't be about Republican or Democrat. This is an American issue. And I'm asking the Biden administration, I'm asking to please take this issue serious. South Texas needs solutions. How many more lives do we have to lose this administration to take this border crisis serious? What has been discussed here today, it is not only families are forever changed, but to me it's personal. We have lost Border Patrol agents in the recent weeks that are our friends. Just last night, we lost another friend. It has to stop. The Joe Biden administration has played the border crisis. His policies have downplayed it. He's on record stating that there's other more important things. That is a ridiculous statement, and it isn't just respect to our Border Patrol agents. I'm asking him to come to South Texas, to come and see what our Border Patrol agents are going through, so we can see some real solutions come forward. Let's show the American people that we can come together for this. The American people deserve it. I think that is the message they have sent very clearly in this past election. That they want us to work together to find real solutions. We as Congress, we as the American people, as Pueblo, we must ensure that we are providing the necessary resources not only to CBP, but also to our law enforcement agencies across the country who are under severe stress and mental health challenges daily, in part due to the drug policies created in this town and this building behind me. So I want to thank my colleague, Congressman Gonzalez, for gathering us all here today to touch on this topic and let us all work together to prevent additional death and suffering. In the RGB and across all border towns, we are all familia. Gracias. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Congressman Gonzalez, for being here.
Thank you. And we're going to release Startling is going to actually do.
Hi everybody, I'm Congresswoman Elisa Startling. I'm from Michigan, where we happily host a huge number of CBP officers on our water border, one of the busiest economic borders in the country. So we feel real kinship. Thank you to Representative Gonzalez for putting Gonzalez, in the past year I've had a school shooting in my district, and we know that for our military, for our law enforcement, for Customs and Border, there is a special need for mental health services by people who understand their work. And I think that's what's been missing. It can't just be a friendly social worker who does work in the civilian world. It has to be someone with specialized skills who understands the problem set and have the trust of those officers to confide in them. The system has to work. Certainly as a CIA officer, the minute you put up your hand to say that you needed mental health services was the day your career started to tank. So we all know and understand those problems. I'm happy to hear with my peers, again, there is no way that we can continue as a nation of immigrants to go on with our immigration system as broken as it is, and this idea that somehow we can either have border security or a humanitarian policy for immigrants, that you have one or the other is crap. You can have both. And I'm willing to work with anybody here and beyond. I commend the process that's going on in the Senate right now to at least bring people together, have that conversation, since it is our responsibility to take the pressure off of the southern border where it should not be in the first place. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everyone. Congresswoman Ellie Thomas. I represent New York State, and I'm proud to stand with my colleagues to discuss this very important issue and to push for the solutions that were outlined in a bipartisan manner. What's happening at our border is absolutely tragic. We have border patrol agents. I did go to see them when I first was elected 2 years ago, and to be able to speak with them and hear their stories, it's incredibly frustrating to sign up to do a job, and their job, and not be able to do it. And their job, they signed up with pride and passion to secure our nation's borders, to protect the homeland, to protect American citizens, to protect the migrants that are coming. And when they see what is happening with not just the fentanyl that is streaming in, it's killed 100,000 Americans, also seeing the tragedy of hundreds of migrants that have died on this perilous journey over the last year alone, seeing children that, quite frankly, have either been abandoned or they have been raped along the journey. You met some of these individuals when you were visiting. It's got to take a real toll on these officers who know that all of those things are preventable. I represent New York City, the great men and women of the NYPD, and sadly, we've experienced something very similar after their hands were tied by our previous mayoral administration. They sign up to do a job and just want to do it. It's demoralizing when that ability is taken away. So I stand in support of our CBP agents along with my colleagues here today. We must find solutions. We do encourage the administration to visit the border, hear from them, hear what their concerns are, and let's work together to resolve this issue. Secure our borders, support our CBP agents, give them the tools they need to do their job, and also let's encourage them, not discourage them, from seeking mental health help to deal with some of the things that they've had to deal with over the last couple of years.
Good morning. Thank you for putting up with the rain, but this is obviously an incredibly important issue, and I think it's most important for us to be able to show that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue, that our broken immigration system needs and requires us to come together in a bipartisan manner. So I want to thank Representative Gonzalez for pulling us together. I actually had the pleasure to also work with Representative Gonzalez on the bipartisan VA Zero Suicide Demonstration Act. And this is a bill that will address the veteran suicide epidemic in this country. I appreciate his leadership on combating suicide in our most vulnerable groups, but most importantly, our law enforcement professionals. I remain hopeful that border security and immigration reform is something that we will find common ground on. But most importantly, this issue today that we are dealing with this bill is about mental health. And mental health is primary health care. And to the extent that we can continue to destigmatize mental health sure that we are providing it on a preventative basis, and most importantly, for our border patrol agents. I went to the border when I was first elected with some people in this group, and it was acutely aware of the unique pressures that our border patrol agents face. And so basically, us being able to address these mental health challenges will truly save lives. And most importantly, I think that I left that trip with a renewed commitment to continue to address this issue. And too much, many times in Congress, we talk about immigration reform, it's border security or immigration reform. The best thing we can do for border security is a comprehensive immigration reform package. But most importantly, we need to continue to remember that it is men and women who are on the front line who are enacting our policies. And those are the people that we need to support. And that's why I'm proud to be a supporter of this bill. I thank Representative Gonzalez, but most importantly, I thank my colleagues, both Democrat and Republican, who are willing to reach across the aisle to make sure that mental health care is addressed as primary health care, and we continue to support the men and women who are on the front lines of this country. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Darren. Okay?
I'm proud to be here to co-sponsor the Bipartisan TAPS Act. The high suicide rate among our border protection officers is unacceptable, and we must come together with bipartisan solutions and make their well-being a priority. I visited Representative Tony Gonzalez's district just a few months ago, along with the Bipartisan Policy Center. We traveled to the border in Del Rio, and I met with border patrol officers, many of them fellow Hispanics. We reviewed advanced sensor towers that are able to 3 miles of the border each. And we also saw that as COVID-19 pandemic subsided, there was a large uptick in immigrants coming to the border. They came from Venezuela, Cuba, Guatemala, Haiti, many refugees, and many with their final destination to our home state, Florida. We heard from these officers about the need of more funding for border protection officers, more advanced sensor towers, and refugee processing. That's why I support President Biden's proposed Homeland Security budget, and the administration is requesting increases for all 3 of these areas to keep our homeland safe and respect international refugee laws. This heightened period of immigration has also taken its toll on our border protection officers, and that's why I support the Bipartisan TAPS Act by my dear friend Tony Gonzalez. It creates a multi-agency anti-suicide task force to assess the underlying factors that are leading to the high suicide rate among custom border protection officers. In 12 months, they'll submit a report, much like what was done after Afghanistan and Iraq. Thank you for his service. The Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas, will then develop a plan on the task force recommendations. While many of us may have disagreements on border solutions, both here and across the Congress, nonetheless, we have to still come together. Find common ground. Find solutions like the TAPS Act, because our border protection officers deserve nothing less from protecting them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Monica Dela Cruz, and I proudly represent Texas' 15th Congressional District. The RGB sector is one of the largest Border Patrol sectors in the entire nation. And in fact, 2 of the gentlemen here on this board come from the RGB sector. So this is close to home for us. These Border Patrol agents, their families, they are our friends, they're our neighbors, they're the people that we have over on Sunday for dinner. This is an important issue. And the reason why is because we can all agree that there is a crisis on our border that needs immediate attention. And the media has covered that. But what the media doesn't hear are the stories that Border Patrol families are telling us. And those stories include things such as brave men and women who wake up extra early and they make extra sandwiches so that when they find an abandoned child on a farmland left by the cartel that is hungry, they have food to give them. They hold the granola bars in the back of their truck so that they're able to give them a bite to eat when some of these children have been with cartel members and coyotes and haven't eaten for days. You don't hear the stories of the Border Patrol men who are delivering babies in the harsh brushland of Texas. All of this takes a toll on our brave men and women who are defending our nation's borders. And that is why I am here standing alongside both my Republican and Democratic colleagues today, because we need to draw attention to what is affecting our agents and get them the resources that they need.
We'll take a question or two if anyone has them. Yes.
What are the reasons behind the suicide that you have learned? Have you talked to U.S. Customs and Border Protection about that?
We have. I mean, when suicide happens, it's often very complicated. And it's usually not one specific issue that impacts you. A lot of times it's work, it's personal life, it's other factors that do it. Part of what the TAPS Act does is help find those issues and get ahead of them. Very similar to what DOD did, whether that's finances and pay, whether that's relationship issues, or like what Brandon mentioned earlier, just allowing agents to have the conversation without being penalized, if you will. So suicide's very complicated, but the sheer fact that there's 14 of them is a problem. I don't care how we got there, it shows that there's a problem, and we have to put, here we had 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans and the president of the Border Patrol Union in rain and cold in DC. That doesn't happen. So we're committed to it. We need others to be committed as well.
Do you think this big influx of immigrants has caused a lot of these suicides?
When you're overworked, I don't care what your work is. If you're working at Chick-fil-A and you're overworked to death, or it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're overworked, there's no doubt that impacts your life. At what level, I'm not too. That's tough to define. But there's no doubt that what is happening at the border is impacting our agents. And the numbers speak for itself. The fact that 14 Customs and Border Patrol agents have committed suicide, something is wrong. What that is, I think this bill is going to get to the address of it.
Last question. I'm just wondering, so aside from this bipartisan effort, many of you mentioned how important it is for both parties to come together. What other aspects of the border issue do you think you could see real bipartisan solutions for?
I mean, the fact that we had 8 members of Congress, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans, willing to stand in the rain and have a conversation is already light years ahead of anything else that is happening in this place. Darren Soto, my friend from Florida, Democrat from Florida, he came down and he visited the border with me. We went to Del Rio, we went to Uvalde, we spent a couple days together. That doesn't happen. There needs to be more of that. Susie Lee, we've worked on legislation. Henry Cuellar, I speak with Henry just about every day on different issues. So to me, it's where can we start and build out from there. It's not amnesty, and it's not some of these other issues. It's, to me, if we as lawmakers here in DC can't come together on preventing people from killing themselves, what can we come to? So thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for covering.